Well, hey there, guys. I'm Axel the Beast, and this is the Curiosity Shop, the ZeldaDungeon.net video mailbag where I answer your Zelda questions. And a little bit of technical difficulties, as if that wasn't obvious from the fact that there's been a delay on the mailbag, but I'll be just reading out the questions off the monitor right here. Izzy asks, in a previous interview, it was stated that they wanted to make a game where 3D means something. How do you think this will come into play in A Link Between Worlds? They basically have just said that they're going to have it so when you're transferring between floors, you really see Link jump up and down, and it really pops, and the 3D effect comes into play there. That's the main thing that they've talked about, effects like that, and you even see when he just jumps down little cliffs. He jumps up into the screen and then falls down. And I'm sure that throughout the game they'll have a lot of effects like that. It's kind of simple, but I guess it's just the whole idea that, like, they still wanted to revive the not necessarily revive, but do the 2D game style, and that was the best way they could come up with for the 3D elements, so that's what they did. I don't know if it's terribly intensive, but I'm like, what are you gonna do with that, really, I guess? Clank asks, what is known about the Dark World and the Link Between Worlds? Nothing. Wolfman Mario Fan asks, according to A.G. Aonuma, they're going to alter the Triforce Hunt quest. What changes could he mean? It's very unclear, of course, because this is all pre-release speculation at this point, but I imagine they're just going to make it so they just reduce a lot of the common complaints about it. What those would be things like how many rupees it takes, or perhaps just how easy it is to get rupees, of course, how long it takes to sail around, how many different locations you'd have to go to, and just generally the aspect of hunting through all the things. Those are like things they could change. Locke pointed out in one of the staff discussions for Zelda Dungeon that he thinks that it might be something more like they make it so you can get to a lot of the Triforce pieces earlier in the game, so that you can really do this quest throughout the game rather than have it being all stuff you have to do at the very end, when you have to do it all at once and it's so annoying. It'd be more interesting if you could, and I think I agree with him, it would be more interesting if you could, just do this throughout the game, more drawn out and more balanced like that. I think that would be a good change. Maybe that's what they mean. I hope so, because that would actually be a good idea. But, hopefully it's something like that. Shimbles asks, in the latest announcements at E3, Nintendo showed that in Wind Waker HD they have taken steps toward cutting down the sailing time, and Aonuma made comments on Twitter that he would like to amend the Triforce fetch quest. If a mode for a harder second quest was added, do you feel this fixes what you saw as all the major problems in the original Wind Waker? I guess it would start to touch on a lot of them. I think that the sailing speed would be a big difference. Honestly, though, I think that there's a lot of problems that wouldn't get handled. First of all, I don't necessarily think they're going to be doing a major difficulty setting. That would be awesome, though. But I think that even if they did something like what we saw in Skyward Sword, it still wouldn't be that hard unless they seriously change the enemy designs. Because honestly, a lot of the enemies aren't even very difficult to avoid, in my opinion. I don't know, I guess. So I just feel it would be pretty much still kind of easy. Regarding things like the sailing, I don't think it fixes all the problems with the overworld, because I think that there is more problem to it than just that it takes long, although that certainly is one of the big issues, and it's a major improvement. But I also think that there's just issues with how little land there is to traverse, no matter how fast you can get to it. I think it's just a generally awkwardly balanced overworld, and I think that, it's still good, it's still fun, but I think that there's still issues that I have with the Wind Waker that I don't think this remake really changes. Certainly it seems to be making some improvements, though. Hopefully there will be something like a difficulty setting, though. That would be pretty awesome. Hopefully they'll do everything that they did in Ocarina of Time 3D, and that would be an excellent set of additions. Dark Master asks, do you like that horrid replacement for the Tingle Tuner in the Wind Waker HD? No, actually. The Tingle bottle, it seems like a cute idea. It's definitely interesting how they're trying to make use of the Miiverse stuff, and, I applaud them for doing something there, I guess, but honestly I think it's a serious missed opportunity, because there's a lot of people, myself included actually, who didn't necessarily at the time have access to, in my case it was a Game Boy Advance at the time, and a Game Link cable in particular, like for linking the GameCube and Game Boy Advance together to even do that. But a lot of people didn't necessarily have even someone to do that with. With the Wii U, they had the opportunity of having, so maybe like for one session or whatever, you could have switched to the Pro Controller instead of the gamepad or something like that, and the gamepad could have been used by another player as the Tingle Tuner. And even they could have made it so you could search for helpers online or something instead of just having to connect with someone standing next to you. I mean, there was so much they could have done with this, and they could have made this part of the game finally accessible to a lot of people who couldn't use it before, and they just didn't. It's such a missed opportunity. It is pretty annoying. Timothy asks, what do you think about the Zelda stages in the new Smash Brothers? You know, they look pretty neat. I really like the train stage. That seems to only be in the 3DS version. I guess it's unclear. Based on Spirit Tracks, I really like it because I imagine that you could really, it would travel throughout all of New Hyrule and you'd see a lot of scenery. I just think it's cool. And it's certainly cool that they are including Toon Link, at least in the background, since he's probably not going to be a playable character, although, you know, who knows. The Skyloft level is also cool. It's another one of those ones where the platforms just move throughout the stage as you land in different parts or whatever, and you see the stage in the background. However, I think it also just looks a little visually dull. I liked it in Skyward Sword, but I just think that it looks almost exactly like it did in Skyward Sword. They didn't really do anything interesting with it or update it very much. I don't know. It feels like it's not the most exciting level they could have done for Skyward Sword. They could have done something with a lot more interesting of like background hazards or whatever, but it certainly looks like it's workable. And apparently there's a Gerudo Valley one too, although I didn't really spot that, but in later screenshots it certainly looks like it. I don't have any input on that yet, but it's certainly an interesting choice. I guess it's because of Ocarina of Time 3D. Wes Frazier 1 asks, if you were introducing someone to the Zelda franchise for the first time, would you encourage them to play the games according to the order of the timeline or by the order of their release? Neither. I think those both don't necessarily make a lot of sense. What I would just do is pick what I think was the best Zelda game, or conversely, the game that I think would appeal to them personally the most. Because, you know, each Zelda game is a bit different. So I'd pick what I either would think is the best Zelda game, which is the most likely for them to be into it, or one that's a little more their taste, depending on what their taste is. If I had someone who liked a lot of character development, I'd give them Majora's Mask, or someone who liked, you know, haunted, creepy, whatever, because it's kind of dark at points, or at least unusual and surreal and ghostly at points. I would do Majora's Mask. If I wanted someone who liked a lot of 8-bit classic games, the original Legend of Zelda, you know, just there's a lot of things to consider, and I think that you just pick the one they would like the most. It doesn't necessarily need to be any specific order other than that. Josh asks, which Zelda game made you almost cry? For me, it was Skyward Sword. I have never, ever cried at anything, because I am manly. Skyward Sword. Linkity Link asks, Link has always been the hero of the Zelda series, but do you think Nintendo could make a successful Zelda game where Link is viewed as an outcast in society or an outlaw in any way? That was basically the plot of this game. Although, yeah, they could do that idea again. You know, like, they could have Link as a criminal or a wanted person or an outcast or whatever. They could certainly do that again, and, you know, they would be cool just for the sake of variety. And there's a lot of interesting things they could do with it that they didn't do in Link to the Past as well. I would say that they shouldn't make it anything regular, of course, because, you know, Zelda is, I've said this a lot, basically a fairy tale kind of thing where the hero saves the princess or whatever, so generally it should still follow the kind of mold it's set and the tone it's set, but, you know, deviating from it once or twice, you know, that could definitely be cool. I think it'd be interesting. Juicy J asks, do you think it would be cool for there to be optional sources of text, such as books, to find in future Zelda games designed to flesh out their stories? You know, they could do something like that. It's certainly, I think, not so much the story that they could expand with this, but more like just the world and background details. I think that's the kind of thing that would be interesting to do with. However, I do think that there would be an issue of just being too much. Now, obviously, it would be optional and not everyone could do it, but I think if it was very interesting, people would feel driven to do it. At least some people. I would, regardless of whether it was too much or not. And I think that it would get annoying because it would be too much, and you'd just be driven to keep reading this, and it's not necessarily that fun. I think that you'd have to balance something like that very carefully. I certainly do think Zelda games could do a lot more with NPCs or, you know, like dialogue things and whatever, of varying kinds, to expand the world more and expand the characters more, but I think there's a careful balance you gotta strike with it. The Fierce Deity asks, in Ocarina of Time, Link had to jump to 2 different points in time to complete his quest. Should they bring this back, and if so, should it be expanded? Maybe you can't read that. This will do. You get the idea. Not the manga, but the game. Magic Bunnyhood asks, if all of Link's forms, including Wolf, Deku, Goron, and Zora forms from all of the Zelda games got in a fight, who would win? Fierce Deity, dur. Although, if you cut that out, because it is kind of cheap, you know, it'd probably just be the Goron, because assuming that their battleground was racially, fair, I mean, who's gonna overpower a Goron? Come on. I don't even think Link could cut a Goron's, you know, hide with his sword, unless the Goron was evil, at which point the Master Sword would do it, but, you know, have we even met any evil Gorons? I can't think of one. Alright guys, that's for this time. Be sure to send your questions to the contact information in the description, and I'll see you guys later. A Guitarist of Time asks, I was just wondering what the size of your poster in your videos is, because I'm about to buy the same one on eBay, but there's quite a few sizes, and I'm not familiar with poster sizes. I think one I was looking at was 24 by 24 inches. Well, it's about, you know, like that wide, and it's about, like that tall. There's like that. Yeah. 22 by 28 inches.